Hello, everyone. This is Lisa Andrus, Psychic Medium, and this is your weekly reading for September 21st through 27th, 2015. And this week I'm using the the Guardian Angel Tarot cards by Doreen Virtue and Radleigh Valentine. I felt guided to use this deck. It was funny, I was going to go use them to do a reading for myself, because sometimes when I do readings for myself, I use cards, because I can't just pull information like I would for a client out of, thin air, if you will. And so sometimes cards help me when I'm looking for guidance. Well, I didn't have time to do it, and the deck was still sitting there when I went to do this reading, and it just became clear to me that perhaps I needed this deck for everyone today. I feel like the big message right now is that things are changing, but it's really time to be gentle with yourself. Commit to yourself and do the things that you want to do, even if it takes a little work. They're asking me to tell you that yesterday there was something in the city that I really wanted to go to. I like beer. And there was a brewery from the West Coast that was here, Deschutes Brewery, and it's my favorite. And I thought to myself, it's going to be a pain to get into the city or to take a bus. It's going to take a while. But I went, and I'm really glad that I went, even though it was, I sat on a bus for a while because I was having beer, so obviously I didn't want to drive. But I have to say, I'm really, really glad that I went, even though it would have been much easier for me to stay inside and to do something non-human, or, to kind of go within. We have to remember that we're humans and to honor our human side sometimes. Like one thing I really like to do is ride roller coasters, and I've been really feeling like I'd like to do that one of these days, whether it's this year because it's going to get cold here soon, or whether it's, something I do in the future. Right now I'm single, and even though all of my friends were busy, like I said, this thing that I went to yesterday, the cool thing was I'm an extrovert, so I'm cool wandering around and seeing things. They had some bands there, so I love seeing bands. I went and watched the bands. And then I bumped into a couple of friends that I knew. So then I went alone, but I still had some people that I hadn't really seen in a while, and we had a great time catching up. And so it turned out better than I expected. So they're saying to just honor those things and do the work sometimes it's required. I think the toughest thing about being alone, if you're alone and you can resonate, is knowing that you don't want to miss certain things, but you either will hold yourself back from them because you don't have anybody to do something with. But sometimes, even if it's something like travel, sometimes you have to travel alone or you're never going to do it. And even though it takes an effort, and it's easier if you have somebody that helps you decide, etc., sometimes it's just worth the energy. So, all right, well, as usual, I have pre-shuffled this beautiful deck. I love it. I love the gentle messages on this deck. So let's see what this week has in store for us. The Monday-Tuesday card is the Messenger of Emotion, and it says this is the beginning of a new emotional experience that could grow into something deeper. You may receive a message expressing feelings that you didn't know were developing. A social invitation could be on its way to you. There's a person involved who's very gentle and loving, with only the kindest of intentions. It could be you, especially if you're artistic, shy, and sensitive. So that was very interesting that I was talking about being alone. And this to me almost speaks like it might be some sort of social invitation. I was feeling too when I was reading this that it could be love, that somebody could be interested in you and might be shy about it, or it might be you. If you are interested in someone, maybe it's time to tell them. What have you got to lose? Life is kind of short, So if you're interested, especially if this person is single, you can't take for granted that they'll be single forever. And it's better to know one way or the other. But I feel like I just hear in my mind secret admirer. So whether that is for something romantic, whether that is for the books you write or the things that you do, like singing, crafts you make, they want me to tell you, okay, I went to my first ever writers conference yesterday. I did something awesome for myself, which is I belong to the Romance Writers of America for about a year. And I finally joined a local writing group that is a romance writing group. One of the best things was going to a meeting with other writers that, I obviously write nonfiction too, but it was so awesome to be with some other romance writers that we all do the same thing. And so I usually have, so they want me to move on. They wanted me to do, again, the theme that I've been talking about here is doing something for myself. I had an event giving readings that it was interesting. I didn't get into it this month. And yesterday was this writer's event, and I just took that as direction to me, and I should go. So I went, and it was really cool to be there. I got to see a famous author that I love, Dorinda Jones. That was really cool. She does some paranormal books. But then there was a speaker, Barbara Vay. And Barbara is big in the romance world. She used to do a blog, and she's big with romance authors. And she was telling us all about ourselves, and she was just one of those speakers that, captivates you for the entire hour or 45 minutes that she spoke. But the one thing she was talking about, she put herself out there and talked about her own mental illness with anxiety and some depression, and then agoraphobia, and how much she suffered and how romance books saved her. And so that's when the one thing that got her out of her house was an event seeing other authors. Anyway, to make a long story short, at the end of it, she said to all of us, because there was a room of about 50 authors, all either self-published, traditionally published, or aspiring to be published. And she said, keep doing what you're doing, because there are people that are suffering in silence, maybe like me, with a mental illness. There are battered women. There are other people out there that need to be rescued and have the escape that your books provide, especially if they're suffering in silence. So never think that what you do is, bad, or you shouldn't do it, or you don't deserve to do it, because there are people like me that these books saved my life. And it was really powerful to just hear something like that. And you need to know that whether it's books, or whether it's the book you've been putting off, or the practice that you've been putting off, or even the romance that you've been putting off because it's scary. They also want me to tell you on the romance tip, I told you guys a couple weeks ago that the light bulb went off that maybe I could start dating again, but I'm not quite ready. But there are certain things that pop into my mind. There's lots of different things out there like Match or singles events. You need to get out there and do something. And if none of those feel right to you, know that you're going to have to leave the house maybe if you want to meet somebody. But we get right back to this messenger of emotion, that you might have a secret admirer you don't know about. They want me to say too, open your mind. If you say something like, I used to have like I don't date musicians rule, or actually this friend I saw yesterday was teasing me about how I had a lot of rules like that. Get rid of your rules, because everybody's different, and maybe you have to think outside of that box, or maybe somebody will surprise you if you think outside of your box. If you have a certain look or a certain type, or like I said, a lot of rules, like no one at work, or no one that's a musician, because I am a musician, and blah, blah, blah. Get rid of that, and just know that sometimes the universe will surprise you pleasantly if you allow it. But if you really do create those rules and want to get in your own way, it might be preventing that romance that you're looking for. Okay? All right, for the middle of the week, we have the Guardian of Action. It's time for you to step up and be the leader. Your natural leadership skills are being called into action. This is your moment in the sun, so move into the light and shine for all to see. This card is also about a person who has charisma, is inspiring, enjoys a challenge, and loves the spotlight. They want me to tell you a little story. I walked into work last Monday. Now, that would be the 14th. And I work during the day in the finance industry. And I think I wrote in my book, Gifted, about how I work during the day doing death settlements. I mean, could I be more of a medium? I do readings, and I also work helping to settle the accounts of people that are deceased during the day. I've joked with my family saying we're lucky we're not funeral directors, because I find a lot of mediums have jobs like that. But it's funny because since I've been back to the company that I moved to, I haven't been doing them for the last year. And to make a long story short, I walked into work last Monday and it was like, okay, there's some changes coming at work, and guess what you're going to do and what team you're going to lead, because I'm a manager at work. And yep, you guessed it, I'm going to be doing the death claims again. But you know what? The reason they wanted me to tell you that is because sometimes you're called on for your leadership skills. You know, one of the bosses said to me, listen, you've got talents over there that we need. And so you may not be expecting it, but what they're saying to me is life goes much easier if you go with the flow. And that includes taking steps that you're guided to do. Now, isn't it funny that I was just saying that, you know, take that chance or that step forward to tell somebody you're interested in them, whether it's romantically or maybe as a business partner or whatever it might be. If it's a business that you want, take some steps toward that. You don't have to do it all overnight. They're showing me a literary agent. So if you do write and you've been thinking maybe I could get an agent, what I've learned about it is you have to usually have to have a finished manuscript or a well-plotted and partially finished manuscript, and you write query letters. But it's not for books that usually are already self-published. But if you have a work in progress, you could go to a literary agent. I think that I did that when I was doing Gifted. I just didn't give it enough time. So actually an agent has told me if I do another manuscript, then, you know, maybe at some point I'll pursue some sort of traditional deal, book deal that is. But I don't know. I mean, I'll just go with the flow. But I see literary agents. So if you are thinking of writing a book, or if you're almost done with the book, and then perhaps it's time for you to take action to either write, make a book proposal. You have natural skills to do this, and there might be somebody that is going to help you. That person that has charisma, enjoys a challenge, and loves the spotlight. Okay? All right, let's see what the weekend has in store for us. 6 of Action. So we've got 2 cards of the action suit today. And this says, what a wonderful experience for you. Your project is a total success, bringing awards, promotions, or other recognition for your efforts. Well done. If someone who can help you offers assistance, know that this person is heaven sent and say yes. So very interesting, because I feel like it goes with that Guardian card. But whatever you've done or that book you're thinking of writing is going to be a success. You might get promotion at work, or your wishes may come true. And know that if somebody offers you assistance, that the person's heaven sent. They're also wanting me to focus on the 6, and it could be 6 months. And I just heard if you're trying to get pregnant and for whatever reason you don't know why it's not happening, 6 months. Give it 6 months before you call the doctor or panic or whatever. And it could be 6 months to engagement. I hear that some of you, we started talking about romance earlier, and some of you may have a whirlwind romance, because I feel like all of a sudden the energy has just like sped up. I feel like 2015 has been kind of almost, I feel like it's been in a holding pattern, either that or it's working out our past stuff, laying some groundwork. And I feel like now, if you decide to move forward into romance, for some of us, it might mean some sort of whirlwind or engagement, or it might mean 6 months until you find that romance. Now, it could be 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 years, and that may not be applicable. Remember now that this is a general reading, but I do this to help everybody and for you to know that you're not alone, that we're all in this together, and it's really hard some days to be a human, isn't it? I feel like I've been having a really hard time these last few months. I personally have made tons of changes within the last year or so. If we go back over a year, I had a breakup. Then I moved out of his house. At the same time, unknowingly, I changed jobs because the job had already been in progress before the move. Then I made the move, didn't like the place I was in, and then I moved again. So now I'm in this other place, and I still, want to buy a house at some point. But now that I'm finally all settled after all that movement and change, man, was it heavy. I don't like to feel or process the emotion. I'm a Gemini, and sometimes air signs are, we tend to want to not process emotion. You don't even have to be a Gemini or an air sign, but some of us just don't like that. I was saying to one of my friends, I think it was a result of maybe when I was a kid being told not to show my emotion. Who knows? But let me tell you, it all settled very heavily, and I decided all of a sudden one day that I just had such negative thoughts in my head or not understanding, and that there was sadness that if I allowed myself to be sucked into it, I don't know, it could lead to depression. And I wanted to take care of myself. I needed to take care of me. And so I went to acupuncture and just said it was for anxiety and perhaps some mild depression. And I'm going to see my therapist that I have not seen in a long time. And it's making me feel better already, just knowing that I'm doing something to take care of myself, that it'll help me to have an objective third person. If a traditional therapist is not for you, maybe it's a life coach. Maybe it's getting a reading, because I feel like I'm not the only one who's been having a hard time lately. So if you resonate with that, they lastly want me to tell you, we're in Mercury retrograde right now. And to me, that's not really a bad thing always. I mean, yeah, there are some things that kind of you bump into, the technology things or whatever. But I think it's a great time, first of all, to see truths that we might not otherwise see, but also to repair or rejuvenate. And so I am getting a long time physical health irritation cured that I just thought I would chronically suffer my whole life. And I really don't want to get too into the personal details, but I have to say there was a certain kind of treatment, I guess, that I didn't know was out there. And so I just called about it, and they're booked normally months in advance, and there was magically an appointment for me. Then I was afraid my insurance wouldn't cover it, and then my health insurance told me they would cover it, or 80%. And now the gratitude that I have for something I didn't even know existed to help me. And it's not life-threatening, just something that I thought would be chronic pain. And I don't know, I'm just really, really grateful for that, and know that it happened in Mercury retrograde. There's no accident that I'm getting this, taken care of now. And all of a sudden it turned to Mercury retrograde, and like magic, there was a truth that I didn't even know existed. So instead of thinking that it's all bad, it's not all bad. Think of the good things. It's a good time for repairs that you've known you'd needed. Car repairs or repairs around the house. Great time to do them. So I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in with me each week. I love you. I just really do. Thank you for being on Earth with me, because it's not always easy. And know that we are just to take life one day at a time, and not worry about things we can't control. And know that God has heard our prayers. The universe has heard our prayers. And if you don't see an answer yet, that may be because they're working behind the scenes on your behalf. All right. As I said, I love each and every one of you. I want to thank you for tuning in with me each week. I wish you a blessed, abundant week, and I will speak to you again next week.